Now a few quick tips on how to improve your amplifier. So now we see an amplifier schematics here. This is Aniket's amplifier that he uses with his speakers that he built for Techkaran. And then he asked me how could we soup up this amplifier. And a lot of people think that you really need to change the schematics to improve on it. But I would think of that as a last resort. We have here a beautifully laid out schematics, and I would just recommend a few minor things that will bring about a change, so that the amplifier will have a more refined tonality. It will be more musical, and it will have more power, more bass output. And what the means to have more refinement out of your amplifier is with the parts quality. And when we look at the input part of the amplifier, here we have an input capacitor there, a 2.2 microfarad cap. For solid state designs, usually it's enough to use a lower voltage rating capacitor there. But if you put a higher voltage rating, high quality film capacitor, which is rated at 400 volts or 630 volts, high quality parts such as a Mundorf cap or an Obligato or maybe a Miflex capacitor, that will greatly improve the sound of the amplifier. However, you have to note that because solid state amps use relatively lower voltages, so it will never see high voltage, especially on the input side. It will take quite a long time to break in. So you will need to run it several hundred hours before it breaks in. Until then, the bass will be quite weak, but then it will catch up slowly, and after a while, for example, in the case of an Obligato, it can take up to a year to break it in this position. It will just completely transform. The same thing is true for Miflex, or if you use dual-wound capacitors. Those are really expensive, but they do work. Dual-wound and Miflex, they can also take like up to a year to break in that position. However, some more affordable and better choices, or I would say like a money-wise better choice, is that resistor over there and these two resistors. So it's a 600 ohm and a 24K resistor. If you so usually we tend to use metal film resistors, and because they are super quiet, but a better choice is to use carbon film resistors because they have the best tonality. The musicality and speech will be best with carbon film resistors. However, a big problem with them was that they used to be really noisy, while metal films are super quiet. So that's why virtually all amplifiers that you can buy, all of the big name products, they use metal film resistors throughout. What I recommend is to use KOA Speer carbon film resistors. So for example, you can go where I get my KOA from is from Mauser Electronics. Mauser. And I believe they ship worldwide, and that you can access them in Europe as well. I'm not sure if you can get it in India or other countries. I hope that that they are available. And when you search for KOA Speer carbon film resistors, and then you will have a choice here. There is the limitation though that they do not have high wattage resistors. These are really low wattage, but you can use them in the signal section. And if you use a little higher value, that's really good, because normally, eventually, when you look at the ppm ratings, they have really bad ppm ratings for these resistors. but do not be afraid of that, because the ppm rating, it really kicks in if your resistor is undersized. So when you are using the resistor at its full rated power, just oversize your resistor, and then it's not subject to extreme overheating, especially if you are in the signal section and there's maybe just a milliampere of signal going through it. Then that's not going to trigger those massive heat related changes in the resistor, and they just sound absolutely fantastic. They take quite a bit to break in, so if you are using those bigger values, I would not recommend to use a 5-watt size where you need only 100 milliwatt, because that will never ever break in, maybe in 5 years. If you need like an 1/8 of a watt, then go for 1/2 a watt, maybe go 2 size higher, and then it will break in a reasonable time, and it will have a very good temperature stability. So now when I build my tube amplifiers, if I can get away with it, so I have the power rating available, I use exclusively these resistors. And for power resistors, I use Dale or thick film Cadok or Vishay resistors. So that's one idea, that you can use these carbon film resistors, and here in this input section, and also here close to the output. Where did I see that? Oh, there's that 24K resistor and that 680 ohm resistor. I would try changing those resistors first, those 4, and just check out how does that change the tonality of the amplifier. Hopefully it will be more musical. And to improve the bass, then at the output, make the gauge heavier. So whatever wires you have there, I would say double up the positive lead and make the ground connection to the speaker terminals of the amplifier 4 times as thick, as heavy as you have it now. And if you drastically improve the hookup wires of your amplifier circuit to your speaker binding post, that will translate into massive improvements in the deep bass. So I hope these 2 little tricks help. And of course, on the input signal side, also double up your ground wire. If you double up the ground compared to the hot, then that will make a preference for the deep bass, or I would say even make the sound more fuller, richer. And if you have equal gauge on neutral and hot, then it will make a thinner sound. And if the hot is heavier gauge than the ground, it will make for a very thin sound. And also for those people who do not have enough top end, you can add heavier gauge wires for your hot, and that will force a little bit more of the high frequency signals into your speakers. So have fun, and we'll continue. Bye bye.